UKIP, the UK include tax cuts in its manifesto for next year's general elections, part of what the party is calling a blue-collar platform for aspirational voters. So let's talk to the party's leader, Nigel Farage, who joins us from Westminster. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. What kind of tax cuts are you talking about?
Well, the most important thing is raising the threshold at which people start to pay tax. We've advocated this for years. The Liberal Democrats now advocate much of this too. And one of the successes of the coalition is that we've raised the level at which people start paying tax. But it goes nowhere near far enough. And what we're going to argue for and campaign for is no tax on the minimum wage. And I think if we do that, whilst at the same time controlling the oversupply of labour that is coming into Britain from many parts of Europe, actually, not only do we get people back into work, but we make it worthwhile for people to get off benefit and get back into work.
Well, I'm sure as a man of detail you'll have costed these plans. How much are they going to cost and how are you going to pay for them?
Yeah, it's going to cost a lot of money. And what we're going to have to do
is...
Well, hang on. No. We haven't released... I'm not releasing the manifesto today. We're just giving a direction and we'll give you those costings in Doncaster at our conference in September. But you're quite right. You do have to pay for tax cuts. And one of the ways in which you pay for tax cuts is you cut drastically a foreign aid budget that is now nearly £1 billion a month and that has fallen into disrepute. We also want to cut the over £50 million a day gross, £30 million a day net that we pay into membership of the European Union. And there's another factor too, of course, which is that actually when you leave people more money in their pocket, they actually go out and spend it in the economy, and that actually helps to get the economy moving. So, no, don't worry, this stuff will all be costed, all be backed up. We've got independent think tanks helping us to make sure these proposals really work.
I mean, you mentioned there your party's manifesto for the election. Of course, famously, you said that at the last election you didn't read the manifesto of UKIP, did you? You described it as 486 pages of drivel.
Well, there were two manifestos. There was one that was 12 pages long, which seemed vaguely sensible. Behind that, there were hundreds of pages of notes that somebody erroneously placed on a website and called the manifesto. And we didn't get it right in 2010. And, you know, that's part of the growing pain of a party. But we're going to get it right this time.
And do you promise to read this manifesto, all of it?
Provided it's not 500 pages long, yes. And it won't be 500 pages long, I promise you.
And it won't be drivel. Now, tell us about your plans to stand in Kent as an MP, because you stood in Thanet South 10 years ago, didn't you?
I did, that's
and
right.
You did pretty badly, actually. Well, what did you get, 5% of the vote?
Well, a lot's changed in 10 years. You know, UKIP as a party has changed hugely in 10 years, not just in terms of winning the European elections this year, but just look how we've performed in the last 2 years in county council elections, district elections and unitary elections. And so UKIP is now a very different political force. Thanet, which is a constituency that I put my name forward for, and our members will choose on Tuesday. Maybe they'll have me, maybe they won't. But if you look at our local base in Thanet, of the 8 Kent County Council seats that take in the whole of Thanet, 7 of them are currently held by UKIP. So what we have is a very strong base of local government support before we start the general election campaign.
So you're confident of winning that seat if you get selected?
If I get selected, I think we've got every chance of winning that seat, yes. And I'm more confident now than ever that UKIP is going to win seats in Westminster next year. It's just a question of how many, and who knows, in what could be a very, very tightly balanced parliament. If there are enough UKIP MPs there, we could make the difference.
And let me finally just ask you a couple of questions about what is our dominant news story this week, the fallout from the murder of James Foley, the American journalist, at the hands of Islamic State. What do you think should be the West's response, and in particular Britain's response, to this very gruesome murder?
Well, obviously we're all absolutely mortified that it is a British citizen that carried out this beheading of that innocent American journalist, and that's awful. But I think what's even more concerning is the idea that several hundred people who've been in Iraq and who've been part of these barbaric atrocities could quite easily come back and reintegrate in British society. And I think we need to think very hard about this. Frankly, I don't think that anybody that has gone abroad to fight for an international terrorist organisation should be welcomed back into this country. The government took a first step yesterday. Mr Cameron took away the passports from some people who were intending to go out to Iraq, but I think we have to find a way of stopping people who fought there coming back into Britain. And I know that'll put us into conflict with the European Convention on Human Rights, but frankly I think this is now of such importance that it's about protecting our communities too.
And there's a debate as well, isn't there, or a split within the West about how to deal with kidnappers, whether to pay ransoms. You know, the French, Italians perhaps prepared to pay money, Britain and America not. Where do you stand on that issue?
I'm generally of the view, harsh though it may seem at times, that if you pay ransoms to kidnappers, all you do is to encourage more of the same.
Nigel Farage, UKIP leader, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for being with us.